Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Penguin Live TV. My name is Stephen. I'm going to be your host for the night. And joining me tonight, we have Michael. Come in and say hello, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Penguin Live TV. I'll be helping Stephen out, passing on some questions that you might like to ask him on the YouTube and the Facebook channels. So post all your challenging questions for Stephen. Hopefully he'll be able to answer them for you.
Thanks, Michael. So yes, please put your questions in Facebook or on YouTube. Michael's going to be scanning those, asking them as best he can. And for those of you who haven't been watching our live Penguin TV, we do have penguins here on the beach. They just started crossing. Really good timing on the stream tonight. I got a bit lucky. I have an inkling our penguins are going to come home a little bit earlier tonight, and they proved me right, which is a very rare thing for our penguins to do. Usually I say something about a penguin, and they like to do the opposite. I say, yeah, the penguins will be in early tonight, and they're 20 minutes late. But tonight they're in early, which is great news. We've got a nice little small group that's coming across the beach here. So fantastic start to the night. And it's so good to be able to share this with you wherever you are viewing from. I do want to say a big welcome to all of our viewers in the UK who are tuning in to maybe a bit of a brunch with the penguins here this morning. Big welcome to you. Maybe let us know where you're viewing from, whether it's in Australia or the UK, wherever you may be watching our lovely little penguins from. Please let us know, because we love to hear where you're viewing from, and we love to share our penguins around the world as well. And while we are waiting for you to write your answers of where you're watching our penguins from, I do want to say a big welcome to Phillip Island, or a Wominjeka to Malal. We always like to take the time at the start of the stream to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Bunurong, and pay our respects to the elders, both past, present, and emerging. Bunurong have been coming to Phillip Island for thousands of years, long before Europeans and white people came to Australia. And they were doing a really good job at taking care of the environment, making sure that the penguins were not endangered by their presence. The Bunurong came to harvest the shearwaters, a seasonal bird that comes to Australia to have their babies. They fly all the way from Alaska down here to Australia on Phillip Island. They have their babies here. we have around 1 million shearwaters who nest here on Phillip Island. And their breeding season is well underway. Their babies are growing up. They'll be getting ready to fledge sometime around Easter. So the Bunurong would have been down here on Phillip Island this time of year, harvesting their eggs, never taking too much. They'd find one egg in a burrow. They might take that for a bit of food. They'd find another burrow. They'd leave that one. They'd find another one. And just above me, you can see some penguins crossing on the highway camera. So these penguins are really eager to get home tonight. Wow. But yeah, we'd always love to take the time to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. And if you are viewing from Australia or maybe one of the colonies around the world, you can let us know who the traditional custodians are of the land where you are viewing from as well. Now, I do want to try to see if we have one of our young chicks in the burrow. We do have a web camera into our little penguin burrow where we have a young chick we like to call Bluey. I'm just going to pop him up. I don't know if he's there or not, but we'll see if that works. And oh no, he's just left the burrow. I checked 5 minutes before the stream started and I saw him preening his little feathers. But just above me right here is a little burrow that our penguins like to call home. And young Bluey is just over a month old, really. Not very old at all. He's growing up really quick, really fast. And we have a bunch of dedicated viewers we love to call the Water Watchers who tune in almost every night to watch our penguins crossing the beach. And we shared the link of our web camera burrow with them, and they have been following Bluey along his entire phase from being a tiny little egg in the burrow, hatching, growing up, growing bigger. And soon Bluey is going to get ready to fledge. It won't be too long now because the breeding season is coming to an end. And Bluey should be getting ready to head out into the ocean. Not just yet, not in the next few days, but maybe in a week or two. Oh, I'm trying to keep pace with this penguin. He's on a mission to get home here on the Penguin Highway. He's traveling solo. We've got another group of penguins ahead of them. So these penguins are going on a journey home. Now we have set up these cameras on their major pathway. We have the camera above me is pointing at the main beach just around Penguins Plus, where we have a viewing stand that if you wanted to come and see our penguins in person, you can buy a ticket and grab a seat there and watch our penguins coming home. And this camera that we're viewing on right now is by the underground, just underneath Penguins Plus. And this is where our little penguins love to come by in numbers. Oh, how are we doing with questions? Have anybody asked a question yet, Michael?
Yeah, the big question is how many penguins crossed the beach last night?
Oh, I don't know. Do you know how many penguins crossed the beach last night, Michael?
Yeah, I've got a fair idea. I think it was about 1,912 penguins.
1,912 penguins. That is a lot of penguins. So we always ask at the end of every night to maybe have a guess as how many penguins came in for the next night. You can tune in. So 1,912 penguins is a really good number for this time of year. We're really at the end of the breeding season, expecting our penguin numbers to drop anytime now because we're entering in the next season, which is the molting season. And this time of year, our penguins are heading out into the ocean for about a month, getting as many fish in their belly as they can because penguins are carnivores. They eat fish. They eat lots of little tiny fish like anchovies, pilchard, baby fish, squid, a variety of foods that they love to eat. And they're trying to get themselves as fat as they can because during the molting season, they're going to be coming home onto land and spending the next about 2.5 weeks stuck here on land, unable to go fishing because they're shedding all their old feathers and they're growing in a brand new coat of feathers all at once. We call it a catastrophic molt because they lose all their feathers at the same time. It takes them 2.5 weeks to grow in the new feathers, which push out all the old feathers. And during those 2.5 weeks, there's no food for them here on land. So they get quite hungry. And in order to survive that amount of time with no food, they get fat, they get chunky. So we're going to keep our eyes open for any incredibly rotund penguins coming home tonight. Let us know in the comments if you manage to spot any. It'll be really easy to spot them on the Penguin Highway camera above me. But we're going to have to wait for our next group to come in because we had some early birds that crossed the beach and we're just waiting for another big group, hopefully another big group to make their way home tonight. We are broadcasting our penguins live to you from Phillip Island. I work for the Phillip Island Nature Parks, and we are a not-for-profit conservation organization. We take all of the money that we get from the sales of tickets or merchandise, food, drinks, all that. All of the profits we make from that are going straight back into these little penguins, straight back into the native wildlife that we have here on Phillip Island. We take care of koalas. We take care of about 1,800 hectares of land here on the southern coast of Phillip Island. The beaches are under our care and under our jurisdiction, and we take care of all of the wonderful animals that we have here. So if you wanted to come see our penguins in person, or maybe make a donation to our charity organization, you would be helping to protect our lovely little penguins just by being here. And our penguin charity is called the Penguin Foundation. There is a link, I believe, in the description of the video where you can head to the website. You can adopt a penguin. It's a symbolic adoption. You don't get to actually keep a penguin at your home. But you can symbolically adopt a penguin or a koala or an eastern barred bandicoot or a short-tailed shearwater. Any animal that you want to symbolically adopt, you are welcome to adopt them. And the money that the Penguin Foundation gets, it does go back into helping our conservation work. It goes into funding our wildlife hospital, where if we have an injured little penguin, we take care of them. We put them in a little blue box, transport them to our penguin clinic or a wildlife hospital. And we have a bunch of wonderful staff there who do their best to take care of our penguins. And when they're healed and healthy and ready to go back out into the wild world, they are released as soon as they are ready to go. So here's a nice big group coming across the beach right now. How fantastic is that? I didn't ask you how many penguins are in the first group, but if you want to have a guess at how many penguins are in this second group, that would be a good one to have a go. Hopefully Ebony will let us know how many penguins are in this group. Ebony is our ranger who is counting these penguins. Every night we do count the penguins. And tonight, Ebony has been left with the unfortunate job of trying to count all of these penguins. So we'll see how many come across. Put it in the comments. The best gets an honorary penguin prize. Not really. There's no prizes to hand out, but we'll give you a bit of a shout out for having a good guess. Now, if you are asking questions in the comments and Michael doesn't manage to read yours in time and it doesn't get asked to me, we do have a ranger who is monitoring all the questions, and they'll do their best to answer you in the next few hours or so. So don't worry if I don't manage to give you a proper shout out tonight, but please ask your questions. Don't worry about asking silly questions. We love silly questions. Don't worry about asking difficult questions. I might not know the answer to them. That's not a problem. It gives me something to research going forward. And I love having a tricky question I don't know the answer to. I love learning new things about our penguins.
I think Ebony just messaged me and said there was about 160 in that group.
160 in that group. That's a good sized group that just came across the beach. Wonderful. I love how Ebony never gives an exact answer. She's not too confident. She doesn't say it was exactly 162. She's around 160. Yeah. A lot of our rangers, they don't like being told, that their count was slightly off, or maybe there's 163 in that group. So if anybody ever asks a ranger how many penguins are in a group, they'll say it was about this number. Even though on our official counting data sheet, she'll have written an exact number down there. Very unlikely it's 160, but you never know. Maybe she did have a nice round number this time around.
So I've got a good question for you.
Yep.
What would Bluey be doing in these first couple of years when he or she leaves that burrow?
Wonderful. That's a great question. So in the first few years of a penguin's life are always very interesting. They're not ready to have babies until they're at least a couple of years old, maybe 3 years old is what we'd expect. So young Bluey, we don't know if it's a boy or a girl just yet. A bit too early to tell the gender by their beak size. But when they leave their burrow, they'll be going into the ocean for the first time when they're around 2 months old, give or take a little bit. There's no firm rules regarding nature and timelines. So around 2 months of age, Bluey will be ready to head into the ocean and head out fishing for their first time, learning how to fish on their own. Apparently, Mom and Dad don't go into the ocean to teach them. Ooh, I'm just going to swap over cameras to the Penguin Highway here. Got a lovely little waddle coming this way. So Mom and Dad don't teach them how to fish. Little Bluey is going to have to learn how to fish on their own. And we love to say that our penguins, they take a bit of a gap year in their first year of life. They usually head over to Kangaroo Island west of here. Lots of fish over there, and they're learning how to fish. And they don't really come back to Phillip Island in that first year of life. They might make a visit here or there, but in general, they're not going to come back until they're a bit older, maybe until they're ready to molt. Could be an entire year after until they really come back here to Phillip Island. When they come back, they're probably going to end up in the same neighborhood where they were born, where they were hatched. So they'll come home, and who knows, maybe they'll end up in, Bluey might end up in their parents' burrow. Let's swap back to the highway. I can't see any more penguins, or onto the main camera. I can't see any more penguins here. Bluey might end up in the same burrow that he was hatched in, but mom and dad are not going to welcome him home anymore, or her home. They're going to get into a bit of a squabble, and Bluey's going to have to find an empty burrow to call their own. So that's the first couple of years of a penguin's life, is really learning how to fish, how to survive in the wild open world. It is a bit difficult for a young penguin to make it in the world, but if they can survive the first year of life, they're doing very well. They'll have a very good chance at reaching the age where they'll be old enough to have their own little own babies. And who knows, maybe we'll see some grandchildren in Bluey's burrow. Maybe mom and dad will move away and Bluey can take over the burrow, and we'll see Bluey Jr. in there. What a great question. What do penguins do in the first couple of years of life? There's no quick answer to that. Penguins are a fascinating creature. They do tend to always move back to the same neighborhood as where they were born or where they were hatched from. There are exceptions to this, of course, but they don't like to emigrate too much. They prefer their home colonies. Got some more penguins here on the highway camera. Let's see if we can keep track of them this time. Not seeing too many large penguins. This one right in the center there is a bit big. Not sure if he's large enough to really start the molt just yet, but you never know. Sometimes the penguins might try to molt even though they're not the adequate size to really survive it. That one's a big one. Whoa. See if I can zoom in on this one. He's having a bit of a rest right down there. He's having a hard time keeping up with this group. So our penguins, as I said during the molt, they like to double their body weight in order to survive their first year of life. And we got lots of lovely preening penguins here on the rocks. Fantastic to see this behavior. It's meaning they're taking really good care of themselves. Maybe making themselves beautiful before they get home. Maybe there are partners waiting for them at home. And how are we doing for questions there, Michael?
We got a question.
No worries. We'll
so with the microchip, how long? What is this? With the microchip, what does it actually do, and how does it help us with the information?
Yeah. So we do microchip about 5% of our penguins. We do that when they're almost old enough to fledge. So young Bluey will be getting a microchip sometime in the near future if he doesn't have one already. Once we're sure that they're going to make it to fledge their burrow is when we like to give a microchip. And the microchip is just a little tiny microchip, the same kind of microchip you might put in a dog or a cat, so that when you go to the vet can scan them, they get their ID number, and they'll have a health record of your pet on file. Basically the same thing for our penguins. They're not our pets, but we do have a bit of a health record for every penguin with a microchip. Because we tend to give it to them when they are babies. We probably know when they were hatched, or give or take the rough age of the penguin. If we find the penguin when they're a bit older and they're in our research site, we might give them a microchip later on in life. But it lets us know when we first found them, and it lets us know every time we see them what happened, what their weight was, when we weigh them, what their health condition was like, what we were doing at that time, if they were engaging in breeding behavior. It's just an overall bit of a spotlight on little moments of their life and what they are getting up to. So our microchips, just an ID tag. It's not a GPS tracker or anything fancy, but it's vital for us in order to be able to identify which penguin is which. Because I could look down at all of these penguins down here and I would not be able to tell them apart. And interestingly enough, the penguins really don't identify each other by sight either. They usually rely on the sounds that they make. They love to hear each other's voices. They use their little calls to be able to identify each other properly. So even if you're a penguin, you're probably not going to recognize who's standing next to you unless they say hello to you first. All right, back on the highway camera. Come on, let's see if I can keep you guys into focus. These ones are being very polite. They're slowing down right at this moment here so I can keep them in frame. A couple of these, the one in front of us is a little bit bigger than the other one, so we got quite a few chunky penguins getting ready to go home for the night. And that's what we're starting to expect this time of year. The breeding season is winding down. The babies are growing up, getting ready to fledge. And the adults who've already had their little offsprings fledge for the year, they are getting fat for the molting season.
So, good question about the molting, actually. This one is really cool. This is a bit of a challenging one, too.
Oh, good. I love a challenging question.
So, do penguins have a feeling full sensation? So, like when we feel full, we stop eating. But how do they override that to then become that 2 kilos?
That is an interesting question. I'm not entirely sure what happens to override that sensation because they double their weight in a month. And I could not imagine doing that myself. Doubling my body weight in just a single month? I don't think that's possible. I'm not sure why penguins are able to override that one. Although I do know that the molt does happen because they eat so much. It releases a hormone when they get to a bit of a certain weight. When they're so large, releases a hormone that encourages the feather growth, which will push out their feathers. But I couldn't tell you how they override their desire to...
I remember Andre was sort of telling me that they store it as muscle, I think,
yes,
food, wasn't it?
Yes, that is true. So the penguins, they don't actually get fat. We love to call them fat because you see these chunky penguins, the best description is they look fat. It's not actually fat. They do store all of that extra energy as muscle. It's very soft muscle, which is what most people who are a bit larger like to call their extra weight is a bit of soft muscle. But our penguins, they store it as muscle because they are out on the ocean. They are fishing all day long. They are diving 700 times underwater just to catch their fish, swimming up to 50 kilometers a day. With that kind of workout, you're probably not actually going to get fat. It is going to turn mostly to muscle. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they just keep constantly eating. As soon as they manage to digest their food, store it in the muscles, they keep going. It's a very strenuous diet that they're on, or a reverse diet, if you like. But yeah, love these questions about the penguins. That is an interesting one. I'm going to have to look into how exactly it works, because I'm not sure what penguins do when they're out on the ocean trying to stuff their bellies too full. I can tell you that when the penguins are walking home, at the top of the hill, it's at the back of the stand. We can't put a camera on there for you, unfortunately, but there is a bit of a hill that our penguins climb up to get home. At least a lot of them do anyways. At the top of the hill, when a molting penguin finally makes it up to the top of the hill, sometimes you see them, they are just miserable. It's a big hill for a little penguin to climb. And sometimes you can see them really struggling to keep their food down. They're just trying to squish themselves, like, don't let the food come out, don't let the food come out. They're really squishing it down, and sometimes it's such a hard workout, they'll actually vomit a little bit of food out onto the ground. It's not easy to keep all that food in their bellies, I can tell you that. Especially when they're doing a bit of a mountain climb to get home. Fantastic. Really good numbers of penguins tonight, which is just fantastic. And because our penguins showed up so early tonight, I did forget to mention that today is World Whale Day. I had to practice saying that a bunch of times. So at home, if you wanted to do that little tongue twister, World Whale Day, 5 times fast, you'll make me feel better because I was really worried about having to pronounce that properly. But it is World Whale Day, and we do like to take the time to acknowledge it. It's not just the penguins we care about, it's all the lovely animals that we have around here. And here on Phillip Island, you might be lucky enough to see the southern right whales or the humpback whales. We also have orcas that do come by as well. Lots of wonderful animals that make a visiting pass around Phillip Island when they're on their migratory routes around the world. And important to think about the ways that we can help, not just our penguins, but the whales in the world and all the lovely animals in the marine environment. And one thing I wanted to ask everybody who is viewing our penguins tonight to have a think about is maybe if you love eating fish, to think about choosing some more sustainable fish in your diets. I know probably our viewers from the UK are big fish and chip fans, just as we are here as well in Australia. We love going out and eating fish and chips. And here in Australia, it's very easy to get something like a gummy, which is a flake, which is a gummy shark. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sharks that are killed every single year for food around the world. Not great whites or anything like that, but we're talking gummy sharks as well. I think it's 12,000 sharks are killed every hour. Is that the stat I remember? It's ridiculous, the amount of sharks that we lose. Millions upon millions every year just to fishing. So have a think about how you can choose some sustainable fish. Whenever you go out for fish and chips, you'll not only help the animals out in the ocean, you'll keep the environment, the ecosystem out there very healthy. And our penguins would probably appreciate it too if you stayed away from their favorite fish, the anchovies, the pilchards, those little lovely fish that they have around here. And okay, let's swap back to the beach camera as actually no, this is a good view. See some more penguins coming out the left side. And it's important for us here in Australia as well to think about our sustainable fishing, because our penguins actually been a bit of an issue back in the 90s, where the pilchard population suffered a widespread disease. There's some fisheries that came in, they brought in some European pilchard, I can't remember exactly what type they were, in their little fishing farms, and those pilchard escaped and they spread disease throughout the native population. And this disease caused tumorish growths to grow on our native population of pilchard. And the penguins, pilchard used to be 60% of their diet. It was a massive source of food for them. And when these pilchard started getting all these growths all over their body, it became 0% of their diet. They lost over half of their food source over the course of just a short period of time. We actually got one of our head researchers here, Andre, in to figure out what was going on, because our penguin numbers were dropping crossing the beach. I'm going to go back to the beach so we can see them. We count our penguins every night because there's Michael's got his 5-minute warning for me. He's always got me on the ball. Wonderful. We always count our penguins every night because it does let us know if there are massive changes in how they're doing. If it's the middle of the breeding season and we're expecting 1,000 or 2,000 penguins to come home and we get 100, that's concerning. That's a big difference. And if that continues over time, it starts to tell us that there's a problem in the ocean. It's an indication that we have massive problems in the ocean. And that's what happened back in the 90s. Our penguin numbers were dropping lower and lower and lower and lower. And the baby penguins at home, they were dying because mom and dad, they weren't coming home to feed them. So we started doing some research around. We found out what was happening, the whole pilchard problem. It took a lot of work to suss out what was happening. But eventually we found the cause. We worked with the fisheries to ensure that pilchard could return back to the penguins' diet. And since the 90s, I believe the pilchard population, the last I heard, which is about 6 years ago, is around 20% of their diet. Might be increasing since then. I don't have any more updated information to share with you on that one. But it's important to think about what we're doing, what choices we are making in our daily lives, and how it might be affecting the environment overall. Because the pilchards that were used in the fishing farms were used in cat food. So it might not be food that you would eat, but it might be food that you're feeding your cat as well. So interesting things to think about. There are many different ways that you can pay a bit of attention to your life choices that could really have a massive impact on the world in general. All right, Michael did give me the 5-minute warning a couple of minutes ago, so we have just a couple of minutes left to go. I think we have time for one more question, Michael, if you've seen any good ones. And if not, you can always just give me a challenging one that you've come up with on your own. He's scanning through. There haven't been many questions tonight, which is not a problem, but don't be shy about asking questions.
This one's quite a big one though, but you might be able to give it
I'll try and give it a snapshot answer if I can.
Are you guys on watch all the time, or is this a 24-hour job watching the colony come home? What's your typical day as a ranger?
Oh, that's an easy one. because I can just talk about myself. I love those kinds of questions. So we do not watch our colony 24 hours a day. This one is a big one. He's having such a hard time. He's trying to keep a jump on his step. They're getting left behind. 2 certified chunkers right here. I personally do not monitor the penguins 24 hours a day. Our staff don't monitor them 24 hours a day. At nighttime, we turn off all the lights in this colony. We give it back to the penguins. So overnight, these penguins will be left completely alone. In the morning, they'll be either on land in their burrows, not doing too much. They won't be disturbed there. Our researchers might go out in the daytime in specific research sites, not extensively throughout the colony, but in their little research sites, they'll go out, weigh the penguins, give them a quick health check, but they're not going to do that every day in the same research site. They'll move their positions around so it won't disrupt the same penguins over and over again. They like to spread it out. So no, we're not constantly monitoring our penguins or the same penguins every single day. We're keeping track of general trends. If we start noticing a problem in one area, but it's not in another, we don't have to worry about it. But if we start noticing the same problems in every area, then we start to really pay attention to see what's happening. Great question. I would love to be out with the researchers every single day, keeping an eye on the penguins, making sure they're healthy and being well looked after, the young chicks. But unfortunately, I'm only at the nighttime here. I got to watch the penguins coming home every night, which is probably one of the best jobs to have around here. All right, we just got a couple of minutes left. I think I said that a couple of minutes ago, so I might run a little long, but I do want to say a big thank you to everybody for coming and viewing our penguins tonight. We are going to be doing this for the next few weeks. I'm sure there'll be an end date in the near future, maybe sometime in the middle of March. Who knows when it'll be? But you are welcome to come and watch our penguins night after night. To all of our viewers in the UK, thank you so much for tuning in. I know you guys are going through a rough time with your lockdowns. Hopefully things get better in the near future. Let's get those vaccines out. But until everything opens up, you're welcome to tune in every morning. Join us with the penguins. Enjoy these cute, lovely, cuddly little seabirds. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.